All right, my name is Matt Storms. Welcome to join us on this Helpdesk Hangout. This is Helpdesk Hangout number 126. Been doing these for a couple of years now. Thank you for joining us. So, remember, here's the rules. We're not talking about negative things. If you have something negative, if your site has been penalized, if you have a gripe or a grip or whatever you have, if you have an issue, there are other Hangouts for you, and I will be glad to help you find those. But we're not going to be talking about that. If you have any other issues or things like that that you might think are borderline, ping us in chat. Ask me directly. I'll be glad to answer those. You can always hit me up online. I'm easy to find. You can always email me as well. If you can't figure out how to email me, go to my website. Email me through there. All right. So as some of the people in this Hangout are currently saying, I can now get married. Well, I'll tell you this, folks. I am happily married. I've been now happily married for 7 years, almost 8, come August. So gay marriage doesn't really affect me. So, yeah. But for all those who want to get married in this country, congratulations, you can now do that. And so, Wissam, now you can go get married. So that being said, let's go ahead and do introductions. Wissam, would you like to go ahead and introduce us and tell us about your lovely new spouse?
Sure. My name is Sam London out of Daytona Beach, Florida, and I am a co-founder of Course.
Outstanding. Victor, we're doing introductions. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? If you can hear us. No, Victor's gone. Outstanding. Go ahead, Kevin.
Kevin Mullett with Market Snare. We help companies that have tens to thousands of individual locations and they want local visibility for that. Otherwise, I'm just another geek on the interwebs.
So tens of thousands of locations. Do you happen to do Dairy Queen?
Tens to thousands of locations. We don't do Dairy Queen. Is that a fat joke?
No, I love Dairy Queen. I was going to ask if you'd give me a discount.
I would if I could.
See, there you go. That's what I want. All right, Josh.
Hi, my name is Josh Bashinsky. I'm an SEO. I've been doing SEO for 15 years or so, and I'm just a crazy Canadian.
Outstanding.
I'm here to help websites get better.
That's all we care about.
Non-negative way.
That's right. John. Go ahead and introduce yourself, John. John left. Outstanding. And we're going to go right to Barry.
I'm Barry. I feel like I should leave as well also. It's a trend here.
It is trend, but I think you were after me, you were the second person to join this Hangout today, so therefore you have to stay. That being said, keep in mind we're going to be talking about positive things. We're going to be talking about innovative things that you guys are seeing that people are pushing the limits with and doing new things. We want to talk about new stuff. Now, if we go an hour, we go an hour. If we go 10 minutes, we go 10 minutes. So the biggest point about these Hangouts now is that you want to be here in the beginning. If you're not here in the beginning, you jump in at 30 minutes in, we might be done. Okay? So for all those who are watching this Hangout on YouTube later, sorry. That's just the nature of the game. So join us early, right at 11 a.m. Pacific time. That's when we get rocking with these. All right. So as Kevin says, suckers. Yes, you've got to join. You've got to be here in the beginning. So let's talk about some. So first off, let's talk about some news, because I think we should always start off with news, because then we can talk about some new things that people are doing around those. Maybe new things that news is talking about. So Barry. Excuse me, Barry, why don't you go ahead and give us like 3 or 4 news nuggets that are happening this week?
Okay. First up, just this morning, they legalized gay marriage.
Does that affect SEO, though?
That's more specific. I didn't know that. I was going to get into pieces and.
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about wars in the Middle East. We could talk about stuff, but I think we need to talk about stuff that actually affects all the people who are in the Hangout, people who are watching the Hangout, which is SEO, SEM related.
Oh, fine. Okay. Well, we didn't really have many Google updates this week. Actually, we didn't have any Google updates this week. So nothing to talk on the Google update front. In terms of major, I guess, search-related news, Yahoo seems to have made a deal with Oracle around their Java updates, where you always get these like install this update for Java update on your PC. That when you get that next update, you'll automatically be prompted to make Yahoo search their default search provider, which kind of seems kind of ASCII or like Ask.com sleazy types of ways of getting search market share, but I think the stock market will like that. Matt Cutts said this week, I think yesterday or the day before, 2 days ago, that he was approved to extend his leave. He's currently on leave for about almost a year now, so he's about to extend his leave until the end of this year, so he'll be on leave for about a year and a half.
I need that job.
Well, he doesn't need the money, as you know. He was.
Yes.
And he mentioned he wasn't getting paid. He announced it on Twit TV, and he said that they are no longer paying him while he was off.
I don't think he needs to get paid, but
No,
yeah.
he's got enough stock.
But he is getting health insurance, which is expensive in California. So after that, the question is, will he come back to Google? And I think by a show, who in this live hangout, raise your hand if you think Matt Cutts will come back to Google. So 3 out of 5. Okay, interesting. Other things in terms of just SEO-related stuff, emojis are mostly gone. 99% of them are gone from the Google search results. Google launched their carousel for the snippets to not just work with news sites, but also work with Pinterest, Vine, the House platform, as well as the Food Network for recipes. And that's pretty much it on the SEO front. I mean, I covered some general topics, nothing news-related.
Yeah, it was kind of a quiet week, it seemed.
Well, it wasn't so quiet. There was a lot of controversy and discussions around, where's Panda, what triggers a manual action, like why would Google actually go ahead and do a manual action or actually think to do a manual action or investigate your website to do a manual action. And there's a lot of stuff around like our Flash game website. There was a lot of discussion around a lot of penalties and non-penalties, but nothing news-related, nothing happening this week outside of just a lot of discussion.
Rand Fishkin did an interesting study on Twitter.
Yeah, when you post something like that on Twitter, I'm sure people are messing with Rand and linking to the content. There's no doubt in my mind that there's some SEOs out there saying, all right, let's play with Rand, let's put some links out there, just to like get them thinking. I asked, yeah, go ahead.
Does someone want to explain what it was first for anyone who didn't see it?
Why don't you go ahead and talk about it?
Sure. So this week, Rand Fishkin posted a tweet on Twitter, and he asked people to go to the Google search, click on a certain result, click back, and then click on a final result, just to see if that's going to change the relative position on the rankings.
And keep in mind, he's done that test numerous times over the last 5 years.
Yeah. And he claims that this time it had an effect for a period of time, I think it was like 12 hours or something like that, where they were able to push up the ranking of the search terminator, if you will, the site that the search terminated on was able to push it up. Now, Barry was mentioning that he thinks people might be messing with him in that they might have been making links to that site. I don't know. Personally, I don't think that's probably what happened, but I asked Rand to provide some more information. Maybe he did in his Whiteboard Friday. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so the reason is because Google said they don't use click-through rate as a direct influencer or ranking factor in the search results. So by Rand testing this, he was basically saying, hey, look, the rankings are changing based on people clicking on it. Of course, at the same time, it was a new piece of new content, right? I believe it was actually old content, but a tweet linking, talking about it, and I'm sure people linked to it. I asked Rand to look in his link tool, for Moz, link Open Site Explorer, and say, hey, were there any fresh links around that time pointing to it? I don't think he responded to me, but I'd be very, very surprised if SEOs out there didn't want to play games with Rand in his test by linking to it.
Now I didn't see it. Was the other result on the same page? So was the premise he was trying to get the one that was linked to go above the other one? So wouldn't bounce impact the other one temporarily?
You don't know. So his methodology was go to site 1, click back, go to site 2, stay there for 30 seconds, close the tab. So you don't know if that experiment affected the rankings. You don't know what in that experiment affected the rankings, if anything, if it was the bounce back or if it was the search termination. In my personal testing I've done, strictly for academic purposes, I assure you, was that the back has absolutely no effect. It's the search termination. So whatever website on the SERP terminates the search and gets the final click, that's what gets the promotes. Clicking back doesn't give any demotions at all whatsoever, as far as I could tell in my academic testing.
Right, but we've long since suspected, because we can't prove it otherwise, that if a page is non-qualitative, if it's not a quality result, then Google is not going to continue to show that result. If you go to Google, you do a query, and you click a result, this sucks, click back,
Right.
go to another result, that's telling Google that it's non-qualitative. It would be very hard for me to believe that they are not using that data. But yeah, I didn't know if one of them was higher than the other one, or if they, how that test worked out. I'll go look at it.
I don't think they are. I don't think they would use that because, and I know Matt didn't want to talk about anything negative, but in theory, someone could do negative SEO on you if they just followed the back reaction, the bounce to SERP.
So let's talk about how as an SEO, how you could do a unique, innovative thing around something like this to get traffic, and what would any of you guys do to enhance traffic based on something like this? Now, Rand could do something like this, especially if that was his client. Okay, why not?
Well, but see, this mimics a normal behavior. I mean, if something is very relevant, so we have something that's very relevant today, then pages that are referring to that are going to have momentary more value than they would on any other given time period. And so if more people have discovered this content and are sharing it around, is it not possible that Google is looking at that as a short-term trend or something that might be related to something else? Oh, for the
kidding me?
love of Pete.
I cannot believe that just happened.
I guess I missed something.
For those who are watching, I apologize.
I was in a different browser, so I don't. What happens when I
knocked out?
You don't want to know.
Okay.
I am extremely
we don't
sorry.
stand for this kind of potty humor.
I'm extremely sorry, and I apologize. And yes, it was very small. And
it was a small joke.
Yep, and
didn't get very big laughs.
and hopefully all of us in the Hangout here feel bad about anybody who's seeing that, and I deeply apologize. Sometimes with a public Hangout, that's what happens. That's the first time that we've actually had that happen, though. In the Helpdesk. I've been on others where that's happened, and this is the first time it happened to us. So yeah.
Now I can die happy. That was terrible.
So getting back to.
Yeah. So this is what I would say. It's really important to make sure your title is filled out correctly and is enticing for people to click on it, because that's going to naturally encourage this kind of behavior from users, right? You don't want to have ye olde 2008 SEO title, red apples pipe, best red apples pipe, buy red apples, some kind of this cut off, it's going to ... It's not going to look right. It's not going to, people are not going to click on it. You want to have something like, wow, best red apples 2015 or something like that, where people are going to click on it, and then you're going to get more people clicking. And then that's part one. Part two, as Kevin so aptly mentioned, you have to have a quality web page. It's satisfying what the person's looking for. You have to make sure that whatever they want on that page. You have to know what kind of user is going there. You have to have your user profiles set up. Are they getting information? Are they trying to make a purchase? And whatever they want to do, it has to be above the fold, above 500 pixels, so they can do whatever it is they want to do right away. And that way they're not going to click back and go to some other result that possibly looks better and or works better.
So that person that was a Canadian there, Josh.
Clearly
So
he doesn't
Josh-
have this.
Josh, go get him.
Yeah, it doesn't have extras.
Let's not focus on that, though.
Okay, yeah. So let's keep moving on.
So that's the natural way to do it, and I've seen not to brag at all, but just to give more context to the conversation, I've definitely seen really great results with doing that. I mean, the key though is that Google will rewrite your titles if you don't have the actual relevant keyword in it. So you don't want to make just some like click on my title please kind of title. You want to have the relevant keywords in it, otherwise Google will rewrite it for you anyway.
Yeah, I mean, if you're a pet grooming place, you'd be like dog grooming San Jose, pipe or hyphen or space, and the name of your business. I think that's an appropriate thing to do with your title.
I would go further to say you might want to put like best dog grooming or 2015's top dog grooming or something that's a little sensational to get people to click on it.
Well, and you can put derivations in there. So if if stems and derivations. So if you put best in there, it's not really counting against you in any way. That's going to possibly be an exact match if somebody types in that query. But the other thing also is to consider. It's really important for local is to add in state and city and state, at least state abbreviation. This is especially important for some areas like, say, Mobile, Alabama, because you don't know whether you're talking about mobile or mobile. And so, adding in that has definitely, we've seen that help as well.
What the heck is a mobile?
I'm just being facetious in the way that I pronounce it.
Like a mobile is the thing goes over top of a kid's crib, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. How long has it been since you've had infants?
A long time.
Yeah. So okay.
Want some?
Yeah. So okay.
You want some new ones?
Yeah. Go ahead,
No.
Barry.
Oh, I was saying, if you want some, I know where you can find some.
You got 3 of them, right?
Anyway.
Yeah. So it must be fun having to have the Suburban to transfer all the kids around. Okay. So that being said, there's some definite, I think, new things that are being done out there. And especially in the local space. One thing that I was asked about yesterday, there's a company, don't ask me why, they have 120 websites. Okay, most of them are like small little tiny brand things, but they're redirecting all of them to new websites. And the guy asked me, he's like, so is it good to like change all of our URLs and to like change all of our content? And I was like, I would not do that. I would, unless you mitigate all of the issues. What's your guys' thoughts, and how do you mitigate doing a site transfer, even just one? How do you mitigate doing a site transfer?
What is the purpose of the transfer? First off, is what I would ask.
Let's just say it's a rebuild. So they have a site that's basically dated to like 2002, and they're upgrading CMS, they're upgrading design, they're upgrading everything.
Yeah,
in that case, I would keep every URL if possible and just update the design. Nothing SEO-wise would get worse. Everything would just, in theory, get better.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a more likely example would be somebody gets convinced that exact match domain or partial match domain has a high enough credibility that somebody has told them that they should switch for that reason. If you're just switching because you're updating the design, then there's no reason to do that. Now, we recently had a client that had there was a legitimate reason for doing this, and that was because the company split. So, okay, you're changing brand because you have 2 owners. The company is splitting. One party is either keeping the existing or they both decided that they're going to create new domains. So in that particular case, yeah, you're stuck. You are going to have to do something. So then it can become even, depending on which scenario they go with. So did one person barter to keep the existing domain? Well, then that means you can't do any redirections, and the other person is starting from scratch. If they agree that they're both going to go their separate ways, is there some kind of a delineation by either market or by product or service that would allow you to change the redirections to go to the most applicable information? So there's a lot more to it. I mean, obviously we can talk about the technical side of it, but I think there's a lot more to it rather than just how you would do it. It's getting back to what Josh said.
Yeah, no, I agree. So maybe we should stay on this, but tweak it just a little bit to, okay, so I'm changing to a new site, a new theme, so to speak, and I might change a few URLs. But how can I do that to increase my traffic or revenue or rankings or whatever it's going to be? How can I do that to get an overall increase in just anything? So what are some of the methods you guys go around it?
Well, so let's extend that just a little bit further, and let's say that they had a poor structure before. So the structure that they had before was not qualitative. So in that case, and I'll let some other people jump in here, but in that case, then you basically have to do some a content audit and a backlink audit and decide where are your quality backlinks coming into, and then where is the new content going to live, what most closely matches that, because you want to redirect to a page that most closely represents what the original page was. And so again, there's some, obviously you're going to do a 301 redirect and so forth. Maybe some of them are going to be 404s, maybe some of them are going to be 410s because you just are dropping that service or you've switched entirely. So there's some strategy behind that.
Personally, I would be really careful. When anybody comes to me and asks to do a site move, I urge them at the first, don't do it unless you absolutely have to, because it's like poking a bear, right? If your rankings right now are good enough for you or pretty stable, if you do a site change, you're asking Google to redecide everything. And they might redecide the way you want, and they might redecide the way you don't want, right? So I would keep your URLs if possible. In WordPress, and if you're good at PHP, or if your programmer knows how to use PHP or web technologies, you can keep your .html URLs. That's perfectly fine. There's no reason why you can't do that. So I would keep the URL, just make the design better, make sure the user interface is good, make sure it's exactly what people want to see, and I would keep the URLs if possible. Another thing I would say is that it was a trend back in like 2010 or so to make a lot of SEO pages with long-tail keywords, specifically targeting long-tail keywords, right? Quite frankly, I don't like that tactic, and I don't think it works very, very well anymore. I think with Hummingbird, released in June 2013, if I remember correctly, Barry can correct me, I think with Hummingbird, and it's kind of collapsing what we call broad match keywords. So, for example, if you have someone looking for weird Christmas gifts, strange Xmas gifts, weird Christmas presents, that's the same topic, and you should really have just one page on that topic, and you don't need to have like 5 different pages targeting those 5 different keywords. I just think that's going to be panda food, personally.
Well, and of course, that depends on whether or not there's a legitimate conversion path in that structure.
Sure. I mean, there are exceptions, of course. But, I mean, if someone's just doing it for SEO purposes, I don't think it's a valid tactic anymore. In fact, I think it'll at least waste your money, and I think it could even go so far as to hurt you. And if you're actually going to change URLs, as Kevin mentioned, you do want to do a backlink audit. You want to check your Webmaster tools, or Search Console it's called now. And you want to check to see what links are now 404ing, and you're responding a 404 when Googlebot comes to crawl that page. And you're going to want to 301 those pages to relevant topical pages as well. Don't just do a global 301 to the index page, because that's not going to help the user in getting what they want, really. And 2, John Mueller from Google has mentioned that if they see that happening too much on your site, they are going to treat that just as a soft 404, and you're not going to retain all that link juice anyway.
Agree. Agree. Mark, you joined us. Mark, where are you from? Oh, I can't hear you, Mark. I think you have your mic muted. Oh, can't hear Mark. Oh, all right. Well, Mark, hopefully you'll get a mic and you'll be able to communicate with us.
Hey, Mark, if you have a question, why don't you type it in the chat and we'll try and deal with it.
Yep, there you go. Thanks, Josh. Okay, so there's some definite things when it comes to launching or relaunching or reskinning a site. Definitely you got to audit your current site to understand what it's doing. If it has backlinks, because you're going to want to preserve them, most likely 99% of the time. You're going to want to preserve any of the old value if it's there, and then redirect to the new site. And hopefully your new site has better content, has a richer experience. Hopefully you've upgraded UI or your UI UX. And I think we can hear Mark now. Go ahead, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
Ah, good stuff. Yeah.
Mark, where are you from?
I'm in Spain at the moment, but I'm from UK normally.
Awesome. Well, hopefully you're having a good time over there.
Yeah.
So today we're talking about, we always talk about positive things and new things that SEOs are doing. And so if you have any new things that you're doing, we'd love for you to jump in the conversation. If you got anything you want to add to the conversation, please do. Don't hesitate. And anybody who's watching, if you want to jump in, please feel free as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. All right, now you got your mic working, which is great, even better.
Did you have a question for us to help you with, Mark?
Yeah, I want to know how if Google treats data within tables different to within, say, a paragraph. I'll give you an example. I'm working on a car website that has a lot of data. For example, CO2 emissions. So imagine you have a brand of car, and you have the brand, you have the model, and then you have the engine size, and then you have the CO2 data. There's actually a lot of data. If you take that table away and just look at the words and the information there, it looks extremely spammy, extremely repetitive, and it isn't something that I would ever put into a paragraph. But within a table, it's very useful for people to see within a table environment. And I've actually added these tables to one of my websites, and I'm worried that when Panda comes along or whatever, it will just be seen as spam rather than useful information. So does Google treat data within a table differently to, say, within a paragraph, within a normal paragraph or a div situation?
Well, Sam, why don't you go ahead? I think you've got the answer to this.
Well, this kind of data is basically duplicated. Everybody that have the same product actually believe. Oh no. Okay. Anybody that have the same product have the same description because it's provided by the manufacturer. So
that's right. Yes, that is true.
So the data you have is you're rather hiding it in a way in a tab where you put the specs and you put all that data in the way you want it. Is it in a table and a different visual data, whatever experience we want to provide to it. And just make sure that, because you don't want this kind of data because you look at it as spammy or probably duplicated, you don't want to minimize that specific the quality of that specific page or product, whatever it is.
Can we see the page, Mark? Do you mind posting in the chat?
No, sorry, I'm unprepared.
Okay.
I followed a tweet from Rusty Brick there saying you were online, and that's why I was unprepared with microphone. So sorry, not at the moment, but the data isn't my data. It is manufacturing data, and it just felt that when you go to, say, a BMW page, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, the brand, there's a list of the makes and models. Are you there? Makes and models, and I just thought it's useful for my visitors to see what particular derivative has what fuel consumption and what CO2 data, and for tax reasons, etc., etc. But it looks very spammy. It just looks spammy. It's useful. So maybe I should take it out of the page and put it into a no-index page so people can click on a link and go and see it. I don't know. I just want clarification.
I think that, let's say there's specific data for European buyers, for example, is very valuable to, to proceed.
It is. It is, especially for company owners. It affects the amount of company tax to pay, etc., etc.
Yeah, so are you able to augment data on that page? So would you be able to put unique and additional quality data on that page as well, so that you have?
Sorry, it's part of something else. It isn't a standalone page.
So it's probably not as duplicate as you're concerned about. We we deal with multi-location pages, and so sometimes you have very close duplicate content. But even in a discussion that I had with Matt Cutts out at SMEX West 2 years ago, really what Google's just wanting to see is does that page have value? And so even if you can put some additional content on that page that is unique to you, then you're driving down the overall quantity of duplication.
That's not an issue. I'm comfortable with what's above it, and also this table's at the bottom of the page, so it sees the unique content first. What I was worried about was the fact that the word, say, BMW 3 Series may be repeated 20 times in a very small space, and then BMW 5 Series is then repeated 20 times, because there are 20 different versions of the 3 Series. That's my point, is that within a table it looks useful, but if you take it out of a table and you just look at the words, it's just a lot of words repeated a lot of times, and it looks like you remember the old-fashioned days where you used to rewrite your keywords hundreds of times
in your
page. That's what it's like.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, so personally, yes, Googlebot does understand different HTML entity types. They can tell the difference between a paragraph and a table, and a div and a block quote and whatnot. And they do treat that content slightly differently. So this is what I would say. If the user is going to enjoy that content, and if that's useful content to be on there, I would watch your usage metrics to see if users are actually going to that page and reading it, or if they're bouncing or not. Get a heat map installed, maybe, see if they're looking at it. Yeah. If it's good content, then I don't think it'll be a problem, personally, in my opinion. But if you are at all concerned about it, you can do what I think what Sam suggested, is you can put entry content, you can put it in a tab, hide it in a tab, and then Google will ignore that hidden content entirely, and you don't have to worry about it.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. The beauty of it is like, does Google crawl that data? And yes, Google does crawl the data, which is nice. But then you have duplicate content that could be on other pages, and so it doesn't really matter. And so I just say, put the content up there anyways, because it's going to help the user, because truly that's why you put it there, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So put the information there for the user, so that way they can be satiated with that data. I love using a big word every now and again.
Big words.
Big words. So they're satiated with that content. I used twice. Oh yeah, RJ. Yeah, that's it. I'll take that spelling. So the thing is they want to be full with it. They want to be happy. They want to get the information they desire. So give it to them. Now Google can differentiate nested tables and all that type of stuff, and you'll be fine. The biggest thing is it appropriate for the user?
Yeah, it is.
That's the question I think that you should ask. If it's not appropriate, don't put it there. I think in your instance, they want to see CO2 emissions. They want to understand all that type of stuff, and so it's going to help them. Sometimes more data is too much. Sometimes you can have data vomit. And sometimes you don't have enough. So sometimes maybe it's a good idea to do some surveys of users and ask them, what's the right amount? What more they want to see. Barry, do you ever do studies with Rusty Brick? And every time I think we mention Rusty Brick today, I think Barry should donate $5 to a charity. Not Charity the stripper, but a charity. And so
Rusty Brick.
That's good. And now he's got
that was
at least $30 today. And so the thing is have you done any user study groups to understand what users want to see as far as data in apps and websites that you guys build?
No.
Well, that's a simple answer. Anybody else?
You did a survey. There was a survey on your SE Roundtable.
Yeah, that wasn't about how much data people want to see. It's just people are just overall very, very, very extremely happy with my website. That's just they just love. That's what the survey said. I love your website. That's what it says here. And they were very, very successful in completing their goals and with their visiting my website. But it had nothing to do with data. I mean, that's what it says. I mean, that's what Google's consumer survey says right here. Yes, I mean, I'm just reading what they say. So if you want to go back to Panda, I mean, that's another story. But no, I haven't done a data set survey on my custom.
So the heat map software I talked about is going to do that for you automatically without having to ask anybody, right?
Yes.
You'll see if the eyeballs are landing on that data, and if you've got good heat on that data, if the eyeballs are landing on that data, then you know it's working. If no one looks at it, then I would remove it or just put it under a tab, hide it under a tab so Google won't count it against you.
So Josh, which
which
software are you talking about, Josh?
I think it's called Crazy Egg.
Yep.
I believe there's one called Crazy Egg that's probably the industry standard. I could be wrong there. Typically, to tell you the truth, I just use Google Analytics in-page analytics, and I check to see where the clicks are. It's not quite the same because there's no clicking on the data, so you'll probably want to install a heat map software to get much more better data in this case.
And keep in mind, if you do use... Sorry, Kevin. I'll get you in 10 seconds. If you do use Crazy Egg, and you're on an infinite scroll website, it goes to crap.
Yeah.
Learn that lesson the hard way. It does not work on infinite scroll. So if you have Crazy Egg and you have an infinite scroll website, just cancel the service because it will not work for you. I learned that the hard way, and companies we tried to get it to work for a couple months and we couldn't get it to work.
You can actually, if you're trying to track whether people go down the page farther, you can actually use Google Analytics itself and put in some traps to track how far down the page they are getting. The other thing is, I really like what Josh is talking about, and you could also use something like Unbounce. You could present the data. You could put have 50%, or do some A/B or multivariate testing, where you have some people being served with that data in it, some people not being served with it. But the question I would ask is there a problem with this page yet? Is this page where you feel it should be ranking and it's not ranking? Because if there's not a problem, then I wouldn't be creating a problem when there isn't one. The other thing is you can look at the time on page. So if you look at that or have somebody else look at it and read down through the page, like tell them you have model XYZ and that's what you're looking for, go find that data and then time them to see how long it takes for them to get to it. Then go back into your Google Analytics and go to that specific page and look at the time on page. If the time on page is 2 seconds and it takes your test people 20 seconds to find that data, well, then they're not using that information. So there's various ways that you can do it on the cheap, or you can go and do some of the things that some of the other guys were saying as well.
There you go. So there's lots of things. As I was telling someone the other day, a lot of people look at a glass and they say it's half full or it's half empty. And I say, no, it's half full of a liquid, it's half empty of a liquid, it's half full of air, and it's half empty of air. So now which 4 of those keywords do you want to rank for?
You know what else is full of hot air?
You. Or rusty brick. Rusty brick, rusty brick, rusty brick.
This is true. But just to comment on what Kevin was saying there, though, that's all great advice. But you got to be a little careful with Google Analytics. Unless you have an event that's triggered to load on each page, you're not going to get necessarily an accurate time on page if people are bouncing from that page. The way the JavaScript works is that you land on a page, the JavaScript fires. If you have any other interaction or event on that page that triggers, then it knows how many seconds the time difference was between those, including if you go to another page. But if you just click back and you have another event, you're going to get 0, 0, 0. You have an average time on a page of 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. That's why you see that, right? So you got to make sure you have an event that's loading every 5 or 10 or 15 seconds if you want to use that method, which I've used plenty of times before. It works really well. That's why I just said use the heat map software, because it's going to tell you if people are looking at that data. That's going to be the easiest, fastest way to find out. And one last thing, very quickly, just to disagree with Kevin just a little bit, I believe now that Google, and John Mueller has admitted, Google has quality algorithms that run on a continuing basis. Whether it's Panda or not, I don't know and I don't care, but he has admitted they have quality algorithms that run on a continuing basis. So you're never going to know if that if that page is low quality. You're never going to know if there's something wrong with it. So I would just err on the side of caution, myself personally, and if you think there's a problem, I would just fix it. It's not like the old days where you're going to go down on a Panda date, you know that you have a quality problem because you went down on a Panda date everyone else went down on. You know what I mean? So if you think it's a quality problem, I would err on the side of caution and I would fix it up. Anyway, we should probably move on to something else.
Awesome. So great timing, Josh, because I was thinking the exact same thing. So there's lots of, what other new things are you guys doing? RJ, what new things are doing or seeing in this last week to improve SEO, to improve traffic, all those types of things? What are you doing? What are you working on?
Hey, can you guys hear me okay?
5x5.
All right. I'd say the biggest thing for me is Google Fusion tables, man, to scrape out some like inbound links and to put them through the tables. Just to visualize the network maps has worked out really well. Clients love it, just a different way to do some storytelling in a different way. I mean, they just get tired of the spreadsheets and just to visually see it. So what I've been doing is like in Webmaster Tools, if you click on the old tab to see the old search query report, and you highlight the pages, and then you can see all the keywords that you ranked for a particular page. What I'll do is I'll export that into a spreadsheet, so I have a column of all the keywords and then the pages where they're appearing for. And I can try to get you a screenshot of it, and then I create a Fusion table for that. That's worked out well. So what it basically shows is like for a particular page, I'll rank for like 200 keywords, but for the page that's more accurate about one of those particular keywords, I won't rank for it. It's tough to see that in Excel sheets, but with
so you
these,
should put this stuff like up on like GitHub or something like that, or a place where people can download your tools and be able to use them.
It's just a video. Like I can create a video tutorial of how to do it. I mean, all
I
it
think
is.
you should do that.
Yeah, I will. I'll do it.
Yeah, you do that, dude. I will be glad, and I guarantee other people in this Hangout will probably be glad to share that for you and to help promote you on that.
Sweet, dude. I'll tweet it out to Barry and see if he can share it.
Okay. Yeah. So that's on there. So there's some definite unique things. I love new tools. I love testing new things and new ways to come up with stuff. I get people send me beta tests all the time. Some of them are really, really good. Some of them are not so good, but they're trying. And that's what I always give good feedback, positive, constructive feedback if possible, when I can test things like that. So I love testing new tools. Okay, so anybody else working on anything new? Josh, what are you working on?
I've been working on my documentary lately that I won't mention.
Good. I don't want you to. I want you to talk about new things that you're doing to help your clients.
Yeah, I've been working on that a lot, so that's where my head is. But I did notice something else that we could talk about.
Okay.
It's just slipped out of my ear, unfortunately. I'll think about it in a second.
Go
to somebody else.
Not a problem. So for me, I mean, that's all I've been working on is meeting with clients this week to try and increase sites and things like that. So yeah.
I got it back.
Okay, what is it?
What do you guys think about automation tools for SEO? Do you guys like them? Do you not like them? Personally, I can't stand automation tools for SEO.
Josh, you and I actually agree on something today.
We agree on lots.
I know we do. But at this moment, I will completely 100% concur with you. I do not like automation tools for SEO. I think bad things come into play. I think you need a hand touch. You need a massage on every page, and that can only come from the SEO masseuse.
Thanks for making it sound as creepy as possible.
And you know what? That's what I aim to do. You should go buy that domain, seomasseuse.com, and then you can rank #1 for that.
No, but I agree. Quite frankly, you're at the mercy of one, the SEOs who made the tool, and two, how well the programmers are able to program to collect their theories of how SEO works back in this whatever year they made it, and three, whatever data they have access to. So, quite frankly, it kind of limits you into a way of doing SEO. I think we need to be really careful about trying to do SEO from a tool. It's like trying to do marketing from a tool. It just doesn't work. You need someone with experience. You can't just press a button and hope that a $1 million commercial is going to get spit out. It just doesn't work that way.
It's just like when SEOs only touch. They say like Majestic, .com is the end all be all for understanding your backlinks. And I'm like, well, that's actually a really good platform. I was like, but do you use any other ones? And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, well, you should also look at Google Webmaster Tools. You should be looking at that, and you should also be looking at Ahrefs. I think that's a great tool as well to understand where your backlinks. And then you need to understand what your internal links are doing. And the only real way to get your internal links is like using Screaming Frog. And so you get like those group of 4 tools together, and then you can actually kind of understand and comprehend what the site is doing. Personally, that's how I feel about it. Those are my main tools that I use that I think help me on a daily basis.
Yeah, just to backtrack a bit, I mean, Screaming Frog is a great tool for a specific purpose. If you want to crawl a site and see all the titles and see all the meta descriptions, or if you want to see all the internal links, that kind of a thing. But some of these tools, and I won't mention any of them, but some of these tools claim to be able to fix your SEO and boost you up and or fix all your problems in one fell swoop. And quite frankly, I personally feel it's just a money grab. And I don't think it's like going to an automatic tool at your pharmacy that's going to say, we'll fix all your health problems, just put in a quarter. You kind of want to go see
I can't lose 50 pounds by spending $100.
Exactly. You kind of want to go see a medical doctor who knows what they're talking about first to diagnose the problems using some skill and some intelligence and some scientific thinking, and then maybe you can drill down to using a tool for a specific purpose. But,
well, I already know that I'm fat, so then it comes down to a matter of understanding which tool that I need. And so hopefully that doctor will be able to help me. All right. So I think with that, Barry's on a phone call. It's just you and me talking. RJ is chilling and laughing and enjoying this conversation, and Mark is the same way. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to call it for a day. Hopefully you guys will go and enjoy it, and hopefully Mark here will go have the best time and go take nightly shots walking around Spain, wherever city he's in today, and he will go and post those on our Helpdesk Hangout page, and that way all of us could wish we were there hanging out in Spain.
No, I'm well chilled. This is where I live now. So.
What city are you in?
Sorry.
What city are you in?
It's Torrevieja.
Yeah, I'm not even going to try to say that. So go take some photos and post them on Helpdesk Hangouts for us, and let us know the beauty of Spain and wish we were all there.
It sounded like Klingon. Are you sure you're in Spain and not on Kronos?
Yeah.
Well, that's my new reference for the day.
Yeah. And with that, thank you very, very much for joining. Join us. I don't know if we'll be hosting next week because it is the July 4th weekend here in the States. So keep that in mind. We might not be having that. And I believe next Friday in the States is a day off. So keep that in mind. If you have any American clients or customers, you might not get very many phone calls on that Friday. So, anyways, you guys all have a good one, and Josh, I hope you have a great next Friday, and you don't have any business.
I'll be celebrating independence of my own type in Canada.
Outstanding. Thanks, guys. Thanks for joining, and I hope everyone has a good one. Go play with your family, go play with your friends, and enjoy the weekend. Get away from your.
Gary, you're wrong.
Adios.
See ya.